Your breakfast doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to not make the rest of your day harder. And there's a few common mistakes, a few common pitfalls that can lead people to making some mistakes at breakfast and make the afternoon a lot more difficult than it needs to be. So the first one that we'll go through is just skipping it entirely. There is a certain percentage of the population this can work okay with, but let me just warn you what can happen when people skip it entirely. Often, if they don't have breakfast, they might be all right in the hours, just waking up in the morning with not having calories in breakfast, but it can lead to the morning tea effect where, let's say now it's, you're up at 7 or 8 and now it's 11. And you might be a lot more peckish than you otherwise wouldn't be. And there is a few issues there where people often won't want to commit to a larger meal or actually proper lunch itself. So they'll tend to go for small things. So they might go more, okay, a little bit of a muffin, a little bit of, some kind of pick-me-up style food. But the thing is with the pick-me-up style foods that most people go for is they are relatively dense in calories relative to their satiation. So it is really hard to get full from, some small Freddo frogs or a couple mints or from even nuts. And the issue with that is you might end up just nibbling, munching along things because you hadn't eaten previously and your craving's a little bit higher or your hunger is a bit higher. And it might take you 400 or 500 calories at least to actually get the hunger signal from your brain to say, okay, I'm kind of fended off for now. And then lunch is in an hour or two anyway. So a better use of your breakfast is to strategically place it into a position, and this can be variable timing, which we'll touch on in a second, that allows you to get through to lunch in a way that is good with your calories, but also incurs least mental fatigue, thinking, oh, I could eat something, I could not, and you're not constantly having that decision. When the issue is when you are having a lack of breakfast and you are starting to get hungry, 11, these thoughts can be constant, and we can have micro chats often with ourselves saying, should I eat something, should I not, should I wait out for lunch, should I not? And it really contributes towards decision fatigue and an overall effort style approach where people just have snacks they would not otherwise would, or think they've overly earned it because they skipped out on 200 calories of breakfast. So what do you want to do? Let's say you're eating at 1 p.m. for lunch. You want to use your breakfast to have some kind of food that satiates you pretty much all the way to the time or close enough where you haven't got to use too much willpower. So if that is something that is more slower digesting and you just struggle to digest things even in the morning, you could have something at like 8 o'clock and that could cover you for 5 hours through to there, even at a lower calorie base. Some people like to have a bit more. Let's say it's 500 calorie breakfast or it's 200. You can play around with this depending on your own satiation levels. Some people got to quickly get something in the morning, like a quick shake, because they go. If you're a quick shake kind of person, you might need to move it a little bit closer to your actual lunch itself, because that might only cover you for 3 hours. So if it's only going to cover you for 3 hours, you're having at 8, by 11, you're starting to think of the snackings, the cravings, all that stuff. And that might be a little bit too far away for you to use willpower to get you through to lunch. What you then strategically could do is just bust out a shake at, 9 or 10 o'clock to get you most of the way there. And there's nearly no time where someone couldn't just quickly swallow down a shake. It doesn't really take long. It doesn't really interfere into work. It's something you can do in the car if you're driving around doing errands, post kid drop off. It's not too hard. But you should use this period to make the transition into lunch easier. Because the truth is, I see constantly people in the morning, people try and skip out on things and leads to extra cravings, or they might just not fully factor in how they can use timing to make the gap towards lunch easier. Because when people start to have like the snacking around mid-morning, it often leads into it in the late afternoon. It leads to lesser sense of control. People then backlog their calories for next week saying, oh, I didn't get any fat loss. I need to pull back my breakfast, lunch, and dinner main meals. When the truth is, there was extra snacking because we didn't actually use the breakfast principles right. So you solve breakfast, make your whole fat loss approach easier. Reverse engineer, slot the gaps, and use shakes and small calorie timings effectively. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, comment, and like. Bye-bye.